Hi folks, Owen Ryan here, wellness coach and the creator of the 360 Journal. Welcome to the second video in the trilogy of how to run a smarter, faster road race. In this video, I'll be focusing on aid stations. Now, aid stations are also known as water stations or hydration stations. And I'll generalize in this video and call them aid stations. The aid station takes on a greater significance the longer the race goes on. So in a 10k race, you might just have one aid station. But in the marathon, you could have upwards of 9 or maybe even more. Now, just for ease of further calculations and being slightly dyslexic, I'm going to say there are 10 aid stations in a marathon. Also, depending on the race distance, there might be a larger variety of options at the aid station for you to consume. There will be water, but there might also be a sports drink, some gels, fruit, and maybe even some wine in one of those mad French races. So one of the first things you need to do is find out what brands they're handing out, especially when it comes to gels and sports drink. And of course, you'll need to know at the French race whether you're white or red. The reason you need to know this is for familiarity with consuming this brand. Now maybe, just maybe, you've never had a gel before. If that's the case, you need to try the gel brand they will be handing out while you are running during your training runs. One of the biggest no-nos when it comes to race day is trying something new for the first time, especially nutrition. Because if it doesn't agree with your stomach and you begin to feel sick, then that puts your personal best time in jeopardy. So know the brands and consume them in advance. Also know where the aid stations are on the course and exactly how many there are, so you don't have to drink loads and loads and risk getting a stitch or something. So let's return to the idea that there are 10 aid stations in a marathon, and suppose that you've decided that you're going to visit all 10 of them. If you don't have to break a stride like these guys, then the aid stations will cost you very little time. However, aid stations can be chaotic sometimes, with people running backwards because they missed the water table or they want a different flavour of the sports drink. There's normally a lot of shouting, music, and spectators cheering, so it can be quite a confusing place if you're not prepared. There are usually a lot of cups or bottles on the ground, so you have to navigate around these too without slipping or standing on them. In summary, there is a lot going on here. And there's a lot that you can get wrong, which will cost you time. Let's say you lose 10 seconds at each of the 10 aid stations, which I think is pretty conservative. That equates to an extra 1 minute 40 seconds onto your finish time, which of course is a whopping amount of time. So planning your visit to the aid station in advance can help you achieve a faster finish time. Okay, first off, knowing where the aid station is located will help you prepare in advance. Then, looking ahead, check to see if it's just on one side of the road. If that's the case, you'll need to line yourself up on that side as you approach. See, lots of people zigzag into water stations, which means they run the risk of being tripped by the person behind them or getting pushed to prevent that from happening. So my first main point is be predictable. When you approach an aid station, don't make sudden movements or you might just get a friendly telling off from the person behind you. And be on your guard as you approach, because the most common thing for people to do is to stop and walk at aid stations. Then very often you end up running into them, which will break your stride and may bump the water that you're carrying out of your hand. So my second main point is do not stop and walk at aid stations, please. Instead, jog slowly away from the tables and then drink or consume the food. Now that helps you in two ways. Firstly, walking will kill your momentum, and secondly, it gets you away from that chaos and keeps you injury free. Plus you've shown some courtesy to your fellow runners, which is a good buzz. Now there are a few things you can do in your approach to the aid station. If you're carrying your own gels, it would be a good idea to consume them just before the aid station so you can wash them down with water and get that sticky taste out of your mouth. Now, one point on this: please do not throw the empty wrapper on the ground. Keep it with you until you find a bin, which is generally located at the other side of the aid station. As a race organizer myself, I find it really disappointing to pick up gel wrappers randomly littering the course in the most obscure and hard to reach places. Now, I'll come back to race rubbish in a moment. Most big races will have banners on the tables informing you if it is water or sports drinks or gels available there. So looking ahead, you need to watch to see where is the congestion. Very often it's at the first table because everyone kind of sheepishly goes for that one. If that's the case, hover close to the tables and aim for the next one. This is where you save those vital seconds. Now, often the volunteers are holding the products in their hands. What I usually do is make eye contact and point to them so they know that I'm coming. Take it and don't forget to say thank you, as they're giving up their time for your enjoyment. Now, that all sounds very orderly, but if you find yourself in a group of pacers, this video shows you the difference it can make to an aid station. It's a good idea in pacer groups to get ahead before they approach the aid station. If one person stopped in that group for whatever reason, they'd all be like dominoes falling over each other. In a moment, I'm going to show you how to drink from a paper cup and a few other tips to finish this video out. Most aid stations use paper cups. In Ireland, where I'm from, we've been using small plastic bottles, but that's going to change probably due to the single use. There are a few other solutions out there such as balls of water, so again it's important for you to know what way it will be presented to you on the day. On a side note, I have invented a lid called the Nippy Sippy lid for aid stations. It's a multifunctional lid that goes on top of cups so you can sip and run without breaking your stride. Who knows? Maybe that might be the way forward. But for now, let's focus on the cup and how to drink from it on the go without choking. What you need to do is pinch the cup and form a spout. This reduces or controls the flow of water into your mouth and stops the water going up into your nose. Often better to turn your head when you drink like this. I'm not sure why, by the way. Maybe that's just my little quirk. Last thing to mention is race rubbish. If you were to slip on a bottle or cup on the ground, that could end your race in a flash. Now, the same applies to the thousands of people running behind you. So please, put the container in the bin after you've used it. It's not just for the sake of keeping the place clean, it is also in consideration of the runners behind you. Okay, let's wrap this video up. Being prepared for aid stations will save you time. I gave a conservative 10 seconds. Now, what if it was 20 seconds over the 10 aid stations? That would be 3 minutes, 20 seconds lost by not being prepared. That's massive. Now, it's important to mention that aid stations can be messy, so even if you are prepared, the aid station may not be. Now, if they aren't, remember that they are volunteers, so please don't shout at them. It isn't life or death situation. Instead, just see it as a game to get through as many aid stations as you can smoothly, and if you do, you'll reap the benefits in your finish time. Okay, we'll leave it there. See you in the third video on how to run a faster, smarter road race sponsored by the 360 Journal. Good luck.